Hello, genius. It's lovely to see you. Here I am inside in my lounge. It's not actually that bad outside, but it's too wet to be out, so I'm in. And today I'm going to tell you about my extra bonus Destructo, Rewrite, Pull It Apart, Stick It Back Together Again writing session that I just did this morning. But before I get into that, I have this tradition that most of you know, but if you're new to this space, you won't, that I like to share a little beauty. Because what's happening in the other room over there that you can't see is that my husband is waiting for this live to turn up on his feed so he can share it into groups. And so I like to have a couple of minutes for people to go, oh, there's a live, I want to see that. Because, yeah, so in that time, I like to share crystals. Hi, Mike, great to see you. Didn't take you long. It's lovely to see you here, dude. So I'm just going to enjoy a few crystals to give people the time to come on and join us here. So this is onyx. Yeah, I know onyx is often black and white, but onyx can be many different colours. And clearly this one is brown and green. Hi, Laura. Great to see you, honey. So we're doing rocks because it's wet out there, and yeah, it's just nice to give people time to come on. So, I mean, I love this. Look at it. It's so simple. It's so ordinary. But when you stop to look at what's ordinary, it stops being ordinary and becomes fabulous. Look at this, just the layers. And you can, hopefully you can see. You can sort of, in the paler bits, you can see in. Hi, Robin. Lovely to see you, honey. So here it is. Oh, hi, Eric. It's lovely to wave at both of you. I feel lucky. I've got all my lovely people with me and more lovely people coming. And look, you know, there's the bottom. Look, there's a line through it. A dinosaur eye. Poriwa. Hello. It's great to see you. So I'm just doing crystals because it's nice to have you come on and be able to say hi. And here we go. So this is calcite. And obviously for those who know, the shape is a Merkaba. Hi, Holly. Great to see you. Yay. This is a good time. So I'm just showing off this sort of orangey brown calcite Merkaba that was given to me years ago. I did something for somebody and I can't even remember what it was, but they gave me this as a thank you. Hey, it's not the new year yet, Laura. Well, actually it is. You know, in my mind, I'm already in the next year because for me, the longest day, even though it's supposed to be the shortest day, is really the new year. The longest day, like the 21st of December, is my new year, right? It's just, the calendar's already clicked over. The fact that it's a few weeks out is kind of irrelevant to me. It's like I'm in the new year now. So, there's the Merkaba, and I love how it spins, drills holes in my fingers, but, you know, the sacred geometry and all of that. So, here I am. I think it's time I got going. So here I am getting going. So I have my little notepad and yeah, I finally got to do an extra writing session. I'm so excited. I started late. I didn't have as much time as I wanted, but it is a holiday. And so I have to kind of remind myself to have a holiday. You know, I did get up quite early, but not as early as normal. And I did my 2 hours meditation with Dr. Joe because I really need to do that to be firing on all 6 cylinders. And then, you know, there were a couple of things and then I got into it. So what I did is I went, how I've been Poriwa is great, but coughing for no good reason. It's not important. So, yeah, so I've been having a lovely break and I went back. I always now, I mean, I just go back to where I was last time. I have a look at it and I think, well, and I knew when I finished last time, I was pleased with what I'd done, but I knew that it wasn't quite right because when it's right, it really resonates inside me. It's like my heart, my gut, my whatever says, done, ticked, finished. And so the picture that I have in my head of what I did is, it's an old-fashioned picture now. It's where you have a car and its bonnet's up and there's somebody inside it. It's like a cartoon and they're ripping bits out and there's wire and there's, you know, there's bolts and nuts on the ground and it's just a really busy picture of destruction and pulling to pieces. And that's what I did because I looked at it and I thought, this is looping. I'm saying things twice. It just didn't work. And what started off as a piece of writing that was about, and I had to write this down, as I was untangling loops. So I've been talking about the survival response and how can get stuck in that, and how that can lead to emotional addiction, so that we're actually chemically in our bodies addicted to a miserable life that we don't even like, and that's one of the reasons why change is so hard, right? That's what I'm getting to. But to understand why it's so hard to change, this is what I'm explaining, and I mean talking about the survival response. And because when we go into survival, our immune system is dialed down and our digestion sort of stops. And our thinking brain there's no blood flow to the neocortex, the thinking part of the brain is not there. Because if you're running from a predator, you don't need to think, you just need to react. So the way that I had it before was, well, it's okay if you do that every now and then, because when it's over, you go back to rest and digest, and you heal your body, and you have food, and you're with people, and you trust, and you relax again, and that's all cool. So it's like every now and then it's okay, but how is it that a lot of us are in stress mode, we are in survival mode, actually, 70% of the time. There's research that shows that many people spend 70% of their day in survival. In other words, they have the chemistry of stress in their body, and so their digestion is compromised and their immune system is compromised, and they're not thinking well, and they spend 70% of their day like that. It's like, what? Then I've been trying to say, well, how do we get from being healthy and having an occasional survival response to that? And I kept looking at it and looking at it. I thought, this just doesn't work. And so I ripped it to pieces and pulled it apart and thought, oh, this bit belongs here and this bit belongs here, and, reshuffled it all. And what I finally got to, and it was really hard to find this, because, this is what happens when you're writing and you want to get a concept across and you want it to be clear. But you don't want it to take all day, and you don't want the story to be convoluted. I wanted it to be clear, and it wasn't. What I finally got to was, we have this survival brain, which is millions of years old. It's the mammalian brain, it's the chemical brain, it's the limbic brain, it's got all these different names. But it sits in the middle of our head, and it's the brain which gives us the survival response, which allows us to run or fight or hide in response to threats in our environment. That's what it does. And those are, by the way, its only options. It doesn't know how to do anything else. It is not a thinking brain, it is a reacting brain, and it sends chemistry to the body that makes the body do those reactions automatically, without thought. Which, by the way, is why, just going sideways for a minute, because this is something I managed to get into this piece now, when you're in survival, you can do really dumb things. You can send send a message or say something to someone that you think, oh my God, why did I do that? Because you weren't thinking, you were reacting. Or you make a bad decision because you're desperate for a situation to change. Just anything to make it change. Let me get the hell out of here. But then afterwards, when you're no longer under that pressure in the survival response, which is, I got to run, I got to fight, I got to hide. If I can't fight and I can't hide, I have to run away. I have to do something to change this now. And so we make a bad decision. And then you look back, and I've done that, right? And you look back and think, oh God, how could I? My brain wasn't working at the time. The thinking brain, not online. I was in survival. I was in stress. So I made a bad choice. And I live to regret it. That's what happens. Yeah, survival mode happens. It sure does. And when it does, we have no brain. We are just, basically, we are like a tiger or a lion or a cow or a horse or a rat or a mouse or a cat or anything when it's threatened. We are an animal. We are cornered. We will fight. We will hide, be submissive. We will run away. It's chaos indeed. It's chaos in our brain. And yeah, it's just, we're just driven by those things. So, and that's okay if you do it occasionally, because it takes all the body's energy to do that. And that's important if you want to run away from a dinosaur. It's going to eat you. But afterwards, you need to be able to get back into normal and relaxing and everything else. And yet people these days don't. So the thing is that if you're in survival, you're doing that. And people spend too much time doing that. But how is it? I mean, we've got these lives today that are much more complicated. and yet we're reacting to them all the time because they're more complicated, and that's actually how it's happening. Because it's not that we're any better or worse than our ancestors, it's just there's all these challenges and they're complicated. And we don't turn off our phone. We don't, I mean, what, my phone is off. I'm not using it. I mean, it's on during the day. I need to be contactable, but I'm not addicted to the thing. Some people, it's like it's welded onto their hand because they just, it's endless. They're never away from it. Life is 24/7. The stimulus is there all the time, and a lot of it's stressful. So we're reacting and responding all the time, and that has really negative consequences for our body and for our relationships and for our lives and for our money and for all sorts of things. But the point being that our prehistoric survival brain is not equipped to deal with our current lives. So are we using the old brain or are we using the new brain? Because the neocortex literally means new brain. That is the thinking brain that gets shut off when we go into survival. So you have this challenge, which of course I'm still working towards solving the challenge, but you got to understand the challenge before you can solve it. Which brain are we going to use? The survival brain, which will only allow us to run, fight, or hide, or our creative thinking brain? Hi, Augusta! I can see you popping up there. Which allows us to solve problems, to stop, to calm down, to think, to process, to analyze, to consider, to be ethical, to all of those things. That's our new brain. It is literally called the new brain. And the difference with the new brain is that it processes logical and analytical thought, and it can learn, it can change. Neuroplasticity, neurons can make new connections, they can break old connections, we can learn things. And so when we have time, when we can get out of survival, then our wonderful new brain has a chance to think and consider. And our new brain is best equipped to help us deal with life now, because it is different and it's more complex. And our old brain, our chemical, survival, limbic, animal brain, mammalian brain, not equipped to help us deal with now. So there's this fundamental challenge where you've got to get from one to the other, and how do you do that? And of course that's what God in Me is about, and that is what I've learned from Joe Dispenza and what I am now putting in my own way on God of Me. So that is what I untangled this morning. And there's a lot of stuff on the floor, like the editor says, there's a lot of film on the floor. I cut all sorts of things out. I don't need this piece. And I spent all this time writing it, but you got to not be afraid to hit delete if it doesn't work. So I did that. Now the other exciting news, and this is exciting, a month or so ago, in fact it's much longer, I warned my husband, I don't know when I started really getting into the idea that I had this vision of something I wanted to create, that I wanted him to draw pictures. And I can remember, because he's into cartoons. This is passion. He wanted to be a cartoonist when he was 5. That didn't happen, but he's doing it now. And so I warned him months and months and months ago. And I remember we actually sat down and we took one of the scenarios that I had already written back then. And we started looking at how we would draw, how it might be turned into cartoons, to illustrated or whatever. And it sort of fizzled out. It wasn't really working. I wasn't ready. Didn't quite know how to do it. But a month ago, I brought it up again. Irina, it's lovely to see you. A month ago, I brought it up again. And I said, look, because we had talked about it. And because neither of us really forgets these things, and he's the artist, he is thinking about it and working it, and he turns a lot of stuff around in his mind, and I don't get the readout for weeks. But what we realized, you think about, if you ever watched the how-tos, the how they made the movie documentaries that go with things like Lord of the Rings, which of course we're very proud of in New Zealand because it was our New Zealand director that did it. And you see how they develop a character. And the first thing you have to do is develop a character. And I can still remember this scene from one of the many hours of bonus footage that I watched, where all the artists that are on the movie are there in the room, and there's all these drawings on a table. And Peter Jackson is, looking at the drawings, and there's drawings on the walls as well, and they're all different drawings, different possible takes of this character could look like this, or like this, or like this, or like this. And he'd be looking at the drawings and put a tick on, I want this one. I like that one. Change that, but do this. And what I eventually realised, and what my husband eventually, together we realised, is we actually forget about illustrating the story. We need to develop some characters. What are these people, whatever they are, going to look like? They're cartoons. What are they? Are they just line drawings? Are they outlines? How do you do it? There's so many choices. And remember, this is for a global audience. Do I even want to be able to illustrate gender? Oh God, the whole fraught gender question now. Well, yes, I do, because no matter who a person is or how they identify, they still have a mother and a father. You can't be human without one of each. Although, admittedly, there are test tube babies now. But, most people have two biological parents. And even if they don't, they have people in their lives who fill those archetypal role models. And they are our influences. They are the people who contribute to our formative memories and who we become. They are not the only reason. You cannot say everything is because of my parents. That's just being a victim. Some people have terribly difficult experiences with their parents. But nonetheless, we grow up and we start to have a mind that can make a choice. So how do you do these characters, and what are they going to look like? And so, again, that was a month ago or so. And then last night we sat down, because I brought it up again. He said, oh, okay, yep, and let's just sit in front of the computer. Yeah, get your tablet out. And I don't know, we took 30, 40 minutes. And he asked me those questions, are they stick figures? And he, just on screen, he drew some really rough stick figures in seconds, because he's been practicing. And I went, oh, yes, stick figures. And, I mean, the key thing to me is that they can do things and they illustrate emotion, because, people have feelings, and a lot of what being God of me is about, managing myself, is about managing my emotions. It really is. Until you can manage your emotions, you can't really choose anything else, because you're just a victim to your environment, and off you go reacting, fighting, fleeing, or hiding from everything, and having all the feelings that go with that. I mean, really, it's that simple. It's not easy, but it's that simple. So he showed me the stick figures. I'm like, oh, yeah. And then he asked me, well, do you want depth? Do you want 3D? It's like, no. I've never seen it in my head as 3D pictures, always like cartoons. And I said, well, put Garfield on the screen, will you? So he gets an internet tab, and, we look at Garfield. But Garfield's got colour. It's like, no, I've always seen black and white. Okay, so he puts a picture of Garfield images, but black and white, because you can do that on the internet. Really easy. It's like, yeah, that's what I want. Not Garfield, but, black and white line art. Okay. And then he sort of goes back to where he's drawing, which is critter. And says, okay, so there are some different body shapes. You can do it like this, or you can do it like that. And he drew these body types. Yeah. And then he just drew some faces. And it was like, yeah, that's always what I've seen. I mean, he's been practicing drawing now for a couple of years. He put it off for 50 years before he decided to even, because it was all too hard and whatever. But then he decided, okay, I'm going to do this anyway. It's never too late, right? And he started scribbling, and always, whenever he's drawn anything, if he draws a face, it's got expression. It doesn't matter how rudimentary or unskilled or whatever it is, it always really works as a face. It always communicates. And me, I'm actually really artistic, and I can draw beautifully, but I cannot do faces. To save myself. They're awful. He can do and there's a face. And it's got a feeling. It's like, wow. So he drew these faces, and then you know what I came to, and he wasn't very pleased, because he wanted very, very clear, specific instructions from me. I said, buddy, I can't give you those. I don't know. But I said, look, I just need you to come up with a whole bunch of options. But those faces, they're always what I've seen. So draw me bodies that go with those faces. Give me some options. And what he's decided to do is just to go with this prehistoric family that I've written a story about. I've mentioned Ama and her father Papo. And I haven't talked about her mate. I don't even know what his name is, or the kids or anything. But he's going to start by coming up with something to just to show what that family unit's going to look like, because I will use those people. I'm going to use those people to illustrate things that are difficult, because if I'm talking about, bearing in mind, the people that I have in mind for God of Me who will access it as a free service, and not everybody will do that because it needs money to pay for servers and computers and support and, all of that, and never mind me. But the people who will access it for free are the people that honestly are in my mind are the child prostitutes in Asia who may get 15 minutes screen time somewhere, or poor children in Africa. It was the original vision I had. It was 3 or 4 of them grouped around a phone, absolutely engrossed, because they're looking at this website and they're learning. So it's got to make sense for this diverse range of people, many of them disadvantaged, but not all. Because there's many people who have money who will be willing to support something like this, because they know that it's going to be going into a third world country where people have no resources, who absolutely are worthy of having this information so that they can make a change right in the middle of their existing lives, no matter what it is. If you have some degree of awareness that you can choose your experience and you know how to change it, well, that's got to be worth something. So that's the vision, you see. So it all comes down to these faces, I said. These faces and this family group, a prehistoric family, is the first thing that he's going to work to illustrate. And more than that, this morning in my meditation, it came to me, I thought, I want to take those 2 screens that he drew yesterday, and totally, absolutely, I'm going to post them on my Patreon page, and I am going to share I'm going to share a good chunk of this visual character development publicly, because how else are people going to know what's happening? So you can look out for that. I would love you to jump over to Patreon and see what's there. There is stuff that is public, and there is stuff that is patrons only. And yeah, it is pretty awesome, Porewa. It's efficient. It owns me. I don't own it. And who knows how it's going to happen, because in order for this thing to be free to people in those countries, there needs to be good support from people that can pay, because I'm not going to fund it myself. I don't have that kind of cash. But, with a community, this can happen. And the Patreon offering is only $5 a month. And for that, you get access to the Patreon-only posts, and you get to ask me questions about your own transformation journey if you want. In particular, how this stuff can apply to you. It's like, okay, well, I was pushing shit uphill the other day and this was going on. What? So there's that, and the fact that there will be patron-only things. I'm not going to share everything public, but I want this thing to be visible, so it's happening. So jump on over to Patreon. I'm still working out exactly how to deliver the most value to my patrons. It's always in my mind, what can I give them that's special? But it's slowly dawning on me, actually, and this is radical for me. This is really radical for me. It is slowly dawning on me that there might be people in the world who would simply want to support this thing, who would want to support me to do this because they can see, like you say, Porewa, that it would be of value. And that's a really new concept, because this is my own journey now. I've kind of always felt that people would be happy to take from me, but no one would want to give to me. Like, duh. Actually, that might not be true. And those are the kinds of things that come to me in my own journey. I have so many ideas popping in my mind about what I can do for my patrons. I'm really quite excited about it. But this is exciting because there'll be words and there'll be pictures. And so you can look out for that. I'm going to be posting that soon, just as soon as my husband sends me the 2 screens he did, and I'll write up a little thing. But you've got the deal here. That's what's going on. So until next time, I don't know when it'll be, but I'm going to make the most of my holiday while I can to write more than once a week for sure, and therefore to live more than once a week. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for your participation. I love your comments. I love seeing you here. And thank you for by coming along, showing me that you do actually like me to tell you when I'm going live, because, I don't want to be pushy, but if you appreciate being tagged so that, that's great. If you're on YouTube, thank you for watching. Please do feel free to like, share, and subscribe, and hop over and visit me on Patreon. I will look forward to giving you the next update as soon as it happens. Until then, big love. And thanks for being with me. Bye-bye.